Hey you. So me and my bestie always have this conversation, and he always thinks I'm really dumb for wondering, but I want to know what people think. All right? What would happen if aliens came down and took us as pets? So just like us and our pets, how would they treat us as pets? If aliens came down and they were ginormous and we were, I don't know, medium-sized pets for them, what would they do? I just get more and more questions the more I talk about it, right? For example, would they treat us like dogs or like cats, where dogs have purpose and stuff, but they're also companions, or cats are just mostly companions, but they might chase pests around? And then if they treat us like dogs, where we have different functions and stuff, would they want to put some of us in a petting zoo and then have like their little alien children come and scream in our faces like the kids do to bunnies at the zoo? I have way more questions than that because it just keeps going on and on. But what do you think? Let me know. He's absolutely convinced that it's my fetish, and it's not. I just want to know. I would just like to know, because that's every other animal's experience interacting with humans. So imagine if we weren't at the top of the food chain. I'm just curious. Ugh, y'all nasty. Stop. But anyways, I'm Asarelli. You can call me Rel if you like. And I'm a 27-year-old who's been diagnosed with autism, ADHD, anxiety, and dyslexia. Today, I want to go over a list of autistic symptoms that many women experience. I was thinking about making a master list video, but it would have just been too long, so I think I'll break it up into separate videos. And just like other maladies, you don't have to experience every single symptom. Autism affects everyone differently, and just because someone experiences symptoms that someone else doesn't mean that they don't necessarily have it. And I know there's the trend going around where everyone wants to be quirky and make it seem cute, but under all of these symptoms there is people who are suffering and having a hard time trying to understand themselves and just live their lives. And while I am listing the symptoms of autism, I am by no means an expert or a psychiatrist. I just know what I'm living with and lots of research into it, because it was at one point my hyperfixation, which I'm excited to make a video on hyperfixations. In the future, I'm gonna make separate videos talking about each separate symptom, if I have it, and how it affects me. But this video would just be a summary of most symptoms. But let's get to it. The first symptom I want to talk about is executive dysfunction. And now this originates from the term executive function, where executive dysfunction would mean problems in 6 different categories: working memory, self-control, planning, organization, self-monitoring, and adaptive thinking. These are all exactly what they sound like. For example, working memory. I have a horrible memory. My short-term memory is terrible. I really don't remember a lot of my childhood either, so long-term is also a bit spotty. But for example, if I have my phone in my hand, I'll put it down and I'll turn around to do something, and all of a sudden I've lost it. And this will happen 4, 5, 6 times within 15 minutes. It doesn't even have to be that long. It's just my memory is so bad. I constantly forget where I put it down because I get distracted and I'm like, oh no, and then I just can't find it. Self-control, same thing. It's where you can control yourself either with food or activities. Organization is the next one. So this could be physically, like your room is messy, you're disorganized, you lose things all the time just because you can't find it. It could also fall into the category of time management, where you're late for things, and I'm late so much, it's not even funny. And being late is also affected by not planning ahead. So you try to get everything done in the morning and you're rushing to get ready and you forget something, or you just don't have the time. And then all of that wouldn't be an issue if you didn't have problems like planning ahead or coming up with solutions. For me, sometimes solutions aren't obvious, or the obvious solution isn't obvious at all. I don't even think it's just one way. If I know how to do something one way, I won't deviate from that because I don't want to change it unless someone shows it to me, and then I realize it's an option. Because if I only think something's done one way and that's the only way I'm gonna do it, I don't even consider doing it a different way. So if I'm late to something, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing until someone gives me the idea to, oh, why don't you prepare your clothes at night? Or, oh, why don't you prepare lunch beforehand? Things like that. The next symptom would be selective mutism. I have this and I didn't realize it was even a thing. It depends on everyone because everyone's different. But I've heard people, when you're in a new social situation and you're not sure what to say, you just don't talk. Your voice is kind of trapped in your body and you just wait until you have the opportunity to talk or you feel safe to talk. Another one, which happens to me personally, not only the social situation, but when I have a meltdown or a shutdown, I just don't have the energy to speak at all. And I've actually downloaded a text-to-speech app. So if I don't have the ability to talk, I'll still be able to communicate. It just won't use my voice. Now, this can show up in different ways for different reasons, but the main point is that you just don't have the energy to talk, or you feel like your voice is trapped inside. You don't feel like it's safe enough to talk, and you can't physically bring yourself to have speech. Number 3 is toe walking. This is a peculiar one because a lot of times children do this. It's basically you're walking on your tippy toes, and a lot of people outgrow this because they actually get too heavy and not, like Rubenesque, but it's just, your body, it gets heavier as you age. So a lot of times people, or especially women, will compensate to wear high heels, or like for me, for example, I'm actually always on my tippy toes, but when I'm sitting, I like to be on my tippy toes, and it's actually a pressure thing. And for people on the spectrum, pressure is really important. It's comforting and it's self-soothing. So there's different ways that you can achieve that. And that moves me on to point 4, which is pressure. When I sleep, I usually sleep on my stomach and my arms tucked under me, either under my chest or under my pillow, under my head. And it's just how I've always slept. I like sleeping on my stomach and things tucked under me because it's the way I'm comfortable. I also, there's a thing called the autistic wrist where you basically bend your wrist in while you you're like a little T-Rex and you bend your wrist in and then you tuck that under you too. That's another one that also helps with the soothing and the pressure and all that. Of course, there's different ways that people like to apply pressure to themselves. I'm just listing stuff that I do or I've heard of, but I'm sure there are plenty other different ways. Number 5 would be emotional regulation. This just means how you react or handle an emotional experience. I definitely know everyone deals with this, especially with COVID, and the last 3 years we've all had has been complete shit. But it's a little more skewed for those on the spectrum. I have a hard time reading my own emotions, and I've had ever since I could remember. A lot of times I feel something strongly and I don't even know that I'm feeling it. So how I react isn't an emotional reaction to me just because I don't understand my own emotions. It's really confusing and I'm still trying to figure it out. But it can really be detrimental if you don't know how to really control all of those emotions and your actions that follow that. Number 6 is hidden curriculum. And this is just a fancy way of saying not understanding all the hidden unspoken rules that society has. This generally applies to social behavior and how you interact with other people and what others expect from you, even if you don't fully understand it yourself. For example, I do work in an office setting and I absolutely hate it. It's a nightmare. It's awful. I am going to school currently and it's a lot. But one thing I do notice is people love small talk. And to me, it's just a waste of time. And while this might be fine and normal for neurotypical people, it can be really, really draining, especially in the beginning of the day. And I am just not here for it. I'll try my hardest, but this is usually what I'm thinking. I really don't want to talk to you. There's nothing we need to really talk about. Why are you bothering me? It's too early in the morning. I really don't know you, leave me alone, all of that. But obviously I can't say none of that. So I have to talk about something really, really stupid like the weather, or I don't know, anything that's big right now. Something really trivial like someone being cheated on or someone famous dying. And even if I did care about those topics, I wouldn't talk about them with you. I really wouldn't, especially at 8 in the morning in the elevator, where this is only going to be like a 30-second conversation and nothing new is going to be said. And it's just, it's horrible. I hate it. It's terrible, but people expect it, and you have to do that in order to not be seen as a weirdo. And I do know that all of that comes off as abrasive, especially with people who I have to see every day, constantly. But, you know, keep all those thoughts to yourself and you just smile. And acting normal and trying to fit in is actually another symptom, which is called masking. Number 7, masking. Now, masking affects lots of women on the spectrum, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You put on your mask so you can pass off as neurotypical. Masking can be expressions, how you act towards things, body language, how you talk to people, the inflection on your voice. It could be a variety of things. This is incredibly draining. Personally, it's exhausting. I started unmasking my personality a bit once I found out I was on the spectrum, which has done wonders for my mental health and anxiety, but it's just a lot. Examples, forcing yourself to make eye contact. I still don't know how much eye contact I should make, and I just feel incredibly uncomfortable making eye contact in general. But I know it's something people expect from me, so I forced myself to do it. Another one is small talk, just like I mentioned. It's horrible. It's usually with people you don't really know that well, or you see sometimes, and they just have nothing to talk about, so they need to fill up the space. Whereas I would rather just be in silence. It doesn't really bother me whatsoever. Just like all the symptoms and any other the symptoms in mental health, masking does look different in everybody. One that's really common that I also do is stopping yourself from stimming. I had massive stims. They're incredibly obvious. It was really distracting. People didn't understand stimming, which we'll get to in a bit. But I forced myself to stop, or at least in public. When I'm home, I still stim like crazy. I have stim in public. It's very rare for me, but if I'm really concentrating on something and I forget that I'm in public, I'll start stimming a little bit. And so far, I don't think people have noticed that much, except for one person who sits right next to me. But it can be hard sometimes, and even mentally draining, because if you don't have the thing to help soothe you, then you're with that pent-up energy and anxiety, and it's just hard sometimes. And now the last symptom I'm going to cover in this video is stimming, which is always a really fun one. Stimming can be any repetitive motion that soothes the person who's doing it. It is short for self-stimulatory behavior, and it could be defined as like repetitive or unusual body movements or noises. So even, I know there's vocal stims too. I'm a really quiet person, so I won't usually do a stim vocally, but I do know of some people who like that feeling in their mouth, and it helps relax them, especially, which is actually another symptom too, if they repeat a word or a set of words or a word they just heard over and over, which is actually called something, and that is echolalia, which is also another symptom that some people... Are you okay? What are you doing? What was that? Epi Slice fell, but he's all good. Just being silly. But yeah, for this video, I figured I'd cover not so mainstream ones at first, with a couple that most people have heard of, just to have a good mix in there. But I will make a second and probably third part of this video, just because there is a lot of information to cover. But thanks for listening, and if you want to get in contact with me, have a chat, send me some memes or any video suggestions, you can contact me via email or on Twitter. Bye! Would aliens want us as pets? Would we be second-class citizens? Would we wear clothes since all our animals are naked? Would they have like people zoos, but it's not racist because it's aliens? If they want to keep our babies like we keep puppies, do they live longer than us, or do we live longer than them? Would they